Hello, good afternoon. This is Matt Mahoney. I am your host for Security Solutions. And today we're talking to the CEO, Nita Sanger of Idea Innovate Consulting. She's an amazing person. I've been looking up her online and we got in touch. She knows all about leadership and growth of a business. So, Nita, why don't you introduce yourself and tell me who you are and where you're coming from?
Thank you, Matt, for having me join you on this webcast. So I'm really excited to be here. My name is Nita Sanger. I'm the CEO of Idea Innovate Consulting, and we are an advisory firm that focuses on helping firms grow their business and helping leadership also to figure out what they need to do in a world that's changing very rapidly and how they need to transform themselves to continue to be successful in a world that's changing around them driven by technology. So I'm very happy to be here.
Right. Thanks so much. So, like I was telling you, I'm a 30-year professional in security and law enforcement. And now I got our own firms, and I do a lot of consulting with security firms and executive protection and investigations. So, but important principles we're talking about here, besides those security issues, we're talking about leadership. And we're talking about growing our business. So hoping you can help us in those two areas. So what do you think about leadership? I understand you specialize in that in your business.
Yes. So what's happening now is that the role of leadership is actually becoming even more important in a world that's changing around us so rapidly. So what leaders need to be doing is, and anyone who has their own firm has to be able to say, okay, we have to focus on not what's just happening today, be able to almost take like a 360 look and say, okay, what's happening in our industry? Then it's going to be, what does that mean for us as a firm? Which means if the industry around us is changing, what is that going to mean for us? Once we sort of identify, it's like, okay, so we are here. What is the future of the business going to look like? And then what should our firm need to do to be successful in that future? So in some ways, it's almost it requires you to like a little bit like looking around the corner and seeing where the business is going. And especially with technology, it's changing the way we're supposed to operate. Once you do that, then the key is going to be to say, okay, what are the steps we need to take to continue to be successful in this environment? And I'll give you specific examples when it comes to your business. Initially, when you were doing security, it was probably much more physical security, etc. Now, as we have more technologies coming in, right? And then people have smartphones and they have other smart systems. Now, what you're going to need to do is to sort of say, how do you connect how you're doing security? How does it connect with the other smart devices that they have? People want to be able to monitor things more remotely. So what you're going to need to be able to do is to figure out what this world is going to look like in the future. It's getting more complicated. The chances of you getting hacked are higher. So when keeping that in mind, that a leader has to be able to say, here's where I think this is going to go. Given keeping that in mind, they're going to be like, what do I need to do to my business to continue to be successful so I can meet my clients' needs even better? Because the clients' needs are now getting more complex. Our clients have to be thinking about all these things as well. What should they be doing? How should they continue to be safe? When the hackers are getting smarter than the rest of us are, and they're continuing to be even more aggressive. So those are the kind of things. And then they have to tactically say, okay, what do I need to do from here to there to be able to get my firm there? And what other services can I provide to my client that would continue to make them be secure? So it's literally having a slightly different mindset rather than just being operational and saying, here's what I need, what I'm doing, here's how I run my business. It almost requires them to have like an innovative mindset. And then it means, what do I need to do to transform my business to continue to meet my clients' needs more effectively in a world that's changing around us? And it's getting much more, it's just getting, because all these technologies are making it, you can make it safer, but it's also the chance of getting hacked are much higher.
Right. Yeah, technology is outpacing us all, right? It's trying just to keep up. It's tough, especially with AI today. I mean, what are you experiencing with AI?
So AI by itself is not a bad thing, right? It's
Right.
how it is being used that becomes an issue. So in a business like what you're in, and I'll give you some examples of the businesses that I'm in like services businesses, which is like I do audit tax advisory or legal services. It's actually taking away a lot of the mundane tasks that human beings were doing, and then sort of saying, okay, you don't focus on the mundane tasks, you do the more value added tasks. So it's thinking about it that that's what it's actually enabling us to do in certain services businesses. In your business, what it's going to help you do is to be able to provide more eyes on things that need to be done. You could get drones, which then can actually monitor what things are being done. So in some ways, AI by itself is neither good or bad. It's how it needs to be used. And then the key is to say, at no point do I think that the human is going away in the process, but the role of the human is going to change. So the AI will be doing, like if you're having drones or if you're having more sort of security there, the AI can do some of that. It can sort of monitor the data. It can give you insights on what you're actually seeing. And it can help you with that kind of information. And the human who sort of sits between the technology and the client can say, what is this information telling me? Given that, what are the things that my client needs to do differently to continue to be safe? And then how do I, as the person who's supporting my client, what else can I do? What else can I provide them to continue to be safe?
Right. Yeah, it's fascinating. Between the automation and you know, the recruiting that you can do with AI, just besides the operational things for the business, I've also found that you can use it to grow the business, right? How do we get new clients? You know,
Yes.
what's your major method of obtaining new clients?
So, because ours is not a high volume business, for us, it's very much still based on relationships, and AI can help us sort of do more targeted advertising. But for you, what I would say is that what AI can help in terms of marketing is to be like almost identifying which market segment you want to go after and then tailoring your advertising very specifically for them. So I think that's what it allows you to be able to do more effectively. But then I would say don't limit it just to doing the marketing. Also think how AI can actually help in terms of saying what other services can we provide to our clients leveraging AI. Some of the things you could do is almost say analytics, right? That you could be providing to them. Now let's assume that your client basically maybe has a warehouse, right? Then what you can say, hey, we can provide you with drones to provide you with security, which will monitor your warehouse 24/7. You don't need humans. We can have technology do that, and then we can provide you with the data. So it almost requires anybody who's running this business to think a little bit outside the box and say, what else can we do to provide our clients with better service? And to just give you an example, when we had done this for a utility services provider. The utility services provider was one that would go and make repairs to the utility lines when something was going wrong, right? So now what we did was we created a drone program for them to go sort of monitor the lines on a regular basis and almost identify where the issues would come before they came there. They would then able to sell that to the utility services providers who are willing to pay for that information. So in some ways, it requires thinking that what is your client doing? What business are they in? And do you have something that can be done using AI that could help make it more efficient? Or if you have somebody who's got a warehouse and they've got lots of parts, etc., some of which may be getting lost, maybe you create something like an app that could help them monitor and track what is happening with all the equipment that they have and all the things that they have in the warehouse so that they can track the movement. So it's doing, because you're already in that space. Then maybe if somebody's got things like if they're doing transportation, then you can actually have AI servers on the trucks that are moving from one place to the other. Or you can also, and that would then help track where those trucks are so they could actually help make them much more efficient. Or if you want to do it where there's items inside the truck, you also have the option of putting security tags on those. So it literally requires you to reimagine your role. Your role is not just to provide that physical security, which might have been where the businesses may have started off, and you mentioned to me like you were a police officer, etc. But now it's saying, what other kinds of security can I provide to my client? So it's almost extending. You already have brand permission to be there to provide security. Now it's taking that a little broader and saying, what are the other things that my client's going to need as he or she is traveling? You have goods that are traveling or might need more, like could have drones that could help them do security. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, I haven't been involved in the guard services or anything to use drones, but that's fascinating. You could definitely use drones in certain aspects in security. I mean, obviously, you want to have eyes on everywhere. That's
Yeah.
part of security, you know, having cameras 24/7, but drones get even better visuals than
Definitely.
cameras can, right? Because the only thing with drones is you'd have to manually operate it.
Yes.
to do it. But I could definitely see it as a service to firms. I mean, right now, police departments are using drones.
Yes.
I don't know about my old agency, but I'm sure that I know departments are using them because it's eyes in the sky right away. In my old agency, we were using planes, and Cessnas would fly around and watch people. But a drone today would be even better. You're not even going to see that drone. You'll see
Absolutely.
an airplane circling your house.
Yes, and absolutely. And I think the other thing that what people are also looking for is anybody who has a business is now looking for to see how connected they can be, which means the people that like in your business now are going to be able to say, okay, can my client track what's happening, say in his warehouse or in his office through his phone or his iPad? So now that would require you to think about it differently. And what that also implies is you're going to need for your firm, it would mean recurring revenue. So, which means if you're running a security business, now you can sort of say, this is another revenue stream that you've generated because your client's going to be like, you just monitor that for me. Let me know if there are issues. And then you bring it to my attention rather than me sitting on my phone monitoring it 24/7. That creates a new revenue stream for you. Right. And it basically gives your client, and you make more money. Your client gets the additional security he or she needs. Then you have to start sort of thinking of what are the other things that could be done along with that as well. And so I think and that means you might be able to form a collaboration with phone companies because that's going to help them, which could actually also help you extend your business, which is so that they could, and if you're going to like 5 business owners, you could have them sort of tell all the other business owners. So it's also thinking where you're going to need talent, which has got different skills. They need to have expertise in things like technology. Then you could form strategic alliances with people that you may not have always thought of that you would need alliances with. So you will definitely need to find people who do drones, but then with people who have phones, or what are the other devices that people are using, and you would probably be in a better position to sort of tell me that. Like, so I think those would be the kind of things to think about. It's actually taking your business and literally reimagining the business, but keeping in mind what brand permission you already have. And to just take that for a parallel thing. So like when we were doing this for audit, we have brand permission to basically, we are providing them financial assurance. Then we were saying what other things we could do. Do we provide digital assurance? Do we provide them? That means if everything that they're using from a technology perspective, do you provide cybersecurity? So and that's what you sort of take forward. So if I was to say for you, like as you're doing these physical security, is cybersecurity. Maybe you could tie up with some cybersecurity teams, which means you bring them in and say, we will introduce you to our clients so you can help our clients be protected, not just from what the security we are providing, but they might need cybersecurity help. And then you figure out a revenue sharing arrangement that you might need to do with them. So the key is to think about who would you, you don't have to do everything yourself. Figure out whom you would need to form the strategic alliances with, and then you figure out a revenue sharing agreement. Because if you're bringing them into your client and then they're providing cybersecurity to them, then that's very much could be like you could just, you get a certain percentage of the money that they make. So in some ways, you're increasing your revenues by providing them, say, with drones. But then you're also helping them get cybersecurity, and you're bringing your strategic alliance to provide that, and you get a cut from that as well.
Right. It's amazing. There's just endless angles.
Yes.
Where this technology wasn't even here 5 years ago.
Yes. And then there's things like facial recognition, because depending on the thing that you're in, and there could be something where you would maybe like, and like I know that at least in the movies or the TV shows where I see where you have like facial recognition, and you could be like if somebody's coming in and out, and then if there's going to be someone who's a person who's like of interest to the police or any of our government agencies, then they get flagged. That's
Right.
another way to sort of think about, that would be another kind of security that you were able to provide. And there's lots of technologies that already exist in that space which do facial recognition, because in fact, if you know that when you look at our phones, there's always now facial recognition to get into so many of our different apps, etc. But then that would be another layer that could be added on. So then you could collaborate with the firm that makes those apps, so you could provide that to your client. Like I said, the amount of opportunities now are actually becoming very endless, and in a way all businesses now almost have become like you can become the node, and then you can sort of have like a number of firms that you're having strategic alliances with. It's not that you need to do everything yourself.
Right.
And I think that's the way to think about it. It's a very different way of running businesses, where it was like my business, I just need to focus on what I'm doing really well. the key to always do is keep your client front and center. Think about what his or her needs are going to be, and
Right.
that you can meet more effectively. And then my suggestion would be that as you do that, do it by industry. So if you're saying somebody who does transportation, they would have certain different needs than people who just have warehouses. And so, and then if you're able to do that for one or two who've got warehouses, then you can go to literally everybody else who's in a similar business with warehouses and say, we've done it for you've done it for A and B, who had the same kind of business like you do, and here are the services we provided them. And then the last, but certainly not the least on this, I would say, is go to your clients and talk to them. They will tell you the problems that they're having. And then we call this like co-creation. Work with them and say, hey, can we sit down and talk? And let's talk about the issues you're facing. And then let's see where else we can help you, what other problems we can help you solve. If we cannot help you solve it, we can bring somebody else that can solve that for you. Then instead of just being a vendor to them, you become like a partner to them. And that's a different approach. Then they are not going to get rid of you because they know you're thinking from their best interest.
Well, that's the art of consulting, right? I mean, that's the whole idea is
Yes.
to collaborate and come up with solutions.
Yes. And that to me makes you so sticky with your client that they will never get rid of you.
Yeah, it's very good insights. I like to hear it. So tell me, what else do you do in your business? What is it? It's Idea Innovate Consulting. So you're just concentrating on certain tax and advisories or anything else?
So no, we focus on services businesses. And so our specialty, at least that's where we started off, is like audit, tax advisory, legal, managed services, and financial services. Because in some ways, and even what you're doing, security services isn't that different. Because
Right.
and our specialty is services businesses, because they, and everybody gets very excited about the technology. We always say keep the human at the center. And so that's where our specialty is. And by that, I mean like the people who are delivering the services and the clients. And in your case too, like if you have security, like if you have physical security guards, those are people who are closest to the customer, who understand the customer's pain points. Make sure you learn from them and say, where are our clients facing issues and how can we serve them better? And then you work with clients. So our specialty is very much on services businesses, less so on manufacturing, where you've got widgets, etc., that people actually manufacturing. So, and then we have now created like a consortium. So I'm bringing together people like myself who've done this for many years, done consulting, but have also put ourselves in our clients' shoes, where we are then able to say we've been in some of the and we face some of the issues that you're facing. Here's how we can help you do this more effectively, because we've been on both sides of it, and we
Right.
sort of provide services to them. And I would say that even as you're doing this, like if any of your security people are interested in like understanding, because what we've seen is a services business is based on like the relationship you have with your clients, with your customers, and how do you serve them more effectively.
Great. That's amazing. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's been really interesting information, even though it's not, you're a security company, but the principles you're talking about, especially all that AI options, I don't think a lot of people in our field understand that yet and how it can be applied.
Because also what happens is when everyone talks about AI, there's always this talk about, oh, AI is this, and you need to know coding or you need to understand
Right.
generative AI. I always say this, that AI is an enabler. Don't worry so much about AI. Worry about your clients and what needs they have. AI is just a tool that can, and figure out if it's the right tool to help you solve your clients' problems. That is kind of the way to think about this. And to be honest, there are times when I'd started on this and everybody was talking about, oh, there's generative AI and artificial intelligence and virtual reality and all of those things. And you're like, what is everybody talking about? And then you break it down, because people get caught up in the technology. It's not about the technology. It's about the humans that you're serving and how technology can enable them to become better, more efficient, or to be able to be more secure. Today, there's enough places where you don't need to know how to do the coding. There's enough people who specialize in that. And even now, people are already doing things where they're trying to do that. You don't have to learn code, like where you have to learn all those, do actual coding for years. Now they're trying to do it so that generative AI gets smart and can help you get the coding 80% there. So don't focus on that piece of it. Focus on solving the client's problems and then figure out what's the right tool that would help you get there. And
Right.
that's when you bring in a specialist who understands that piece of it and can help move it forward. But it's a different mindset. So it's almost like asking all of you and all the people in the security industry to almost act like a little bit like consultants like we do, consult to your client, hear what they're saying are their issues, and figure out how best you can solve them.
Right. So how does your business work? Do you have a consulting team that you come in, or is it just you, or do you work as a whole unit?
So no, what we do is, so obviously it'll be like one of us figuring out what we need to be like if we talk to a client, because at the end it's a relationship business. So it might be myself or somebody else coming in, having a talk and sort of saying, okay, what's the problem you're dealing with? Then depending on what our client is looking for, do they need a design thinking session to help them sort of say what's the their firm of the future going to look like? Then we bring in different people. So I have my whole team, and then we have the strategic alliances that I told you, which are the technology providers, etc. So it's never coming in and bringing everybody in, but it's like one, two of us will come and have the conversation, hear what you're saying, and then figure out who else we need to bring in to solve your needs more effectively. And in
Right.
the same way that I would tell you what should do with your clients as you're looking to grow your business is, first, it's almost like, who do I want to go after? And having that very clearly, what's the size of the business? I want to go after 10 million plus business, or I want to go in which industry do I want to go after? And where we tend to do is by industry, so that I understand the needs and what's happening in that industry. Then you kind of go there and say, okay, and if I've done this for one or two people in the industry, so if you co-create a solution with one or two people in that industry, then you can go to the others in that same industry and say, hey, we did this for A and B, and then we want to do the same thing for you. So in some ways, I would suggest that approach for even anybody in your business who's trying to grow and generate additional revenues. Do it from that perspective. Then as you sort of, they say, now we need somebody we want a drone program created, then go find the vendor who knows how to create that. Then work with them. Then keep on adding on the other things that are going to be needed.
So you're doing most of your business by referral and word of mouth. So
Yes, right
what's
now,
your greatest challenge in growing in 2026?
the greatest challenge actually is, and I've had a lot of people ask me that, it's actually finding people who recognize the need. Because this is the time where it's not about me being brilliant or you being brilliant. It's basically knowing that the client that you're going after has recognized that there's a need to do something differently. That, I think, is the bigger thing. And human beings don't like change. They're like, well, we've done this way, let's continue to do it that way.
Right, but finding the client, that's the art, right?
and
So
and
so
then
what are you
to
doing?
know people who are kind of saying we need to do something differently, or finding those people who are willing to do something differently. And sometimes, unfortunately, you have to almost wait until they're at that point that they have so much pain. So in your industry,
Right.
like somebody's been hacked or somebody had something stolen, which is kind of a bad thing to
Yeah, too
say,
late.
then it's like they have to get to that point of pain where they're like, we need to do something differently because we have no other way around it. And in our business, it's like, okay, we are either bleeding money, our revenues are down, our margins are flat, the industry is changing around us, or there's something, our clients' needs have changed. Then they are like, okay, now we need to do something differently. So it's almost waiting for them to get to that point. And so what we also try to do is to kind of say, try to almost like warn them or tell them where the industry is going, and then people who are interested reach out to us and say, hey, we need your help. So it's doing it in that fashion.
Well, do you do seminars or public speaking or anything like that to generate?
We do a lot of, yes, we like in industry, we go to the industry and talk at different events, or like thought leadership, or like there's like panels, etc. So yes, all of them. And so if there's anything you need us to come and talk to you or your team, absolutely happy to do that, or even the
Yeah, I'm
other
just always interested in the most effective growth methods going on today to build a business.
And the most effective growth methods usually aren't, see, those ones are more sort of creating awareness. But I would say the biggest thing to go to do is, how much ever technology advances, it's the human touch. What I found it to be effective is if there's like an industry event that I'm interested in, then that's where I go, I meet people. Because the first contact almost helps where it's a human to human contact. Whatever technology does, do that, and then you're able to say, hey, can I call you? I understand this, and then go back to them. Then you can do like a Zoom call, and it works better. But the best way really is, like I said, figure out the market segment you're going after. Where are they likely to be? Is there an industry gathering that you think that they're all likely to be at? Go there and meet with as many people, because I think today that's what builds trust. And we are all
Right.
in the trust business. You're in the
Absolutely.
securities trust business. I'm in the trust business to help my clients grow their business. So that's the kind of thing. And for trust, it actually does help if I can look you in the eye and kind of
Sure.
say, and I've done this. I've helped people. I've been in your shoes. And in your case, you can
For
absolutely
sure.
say that. That's what creates the trust. And then you talk to them and then go back to them. That's what I found it to be most effective. And so the things what you do on social media helps to kind of then amplify what you've already done, but it's not a substitute. And I know
Yeah.
people say, oh, let's do a LinkedIn reach out and stuff. The problem is there's so many people doing that, then you just get lost in the crowd. Do
Right.
something that makes you stand out. Anything that you do that will make it that you're memorable, but then people still want to meet that person whom they're going to be doing business with. So I think the industry events are the best to actually go to.
Okay. I love it. Great advice. All right, Nita, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn under my name Nita Sanger, or I have a website which is for my company, which is www.ideainnovate.com, or my email address, which is nsanger@ideainnovate.com.
All right, Nita, thank you so much for the insights. Really appreciate it. I think a lot of people in my field can get a lot of that information. And even though you're not in the security field, you really have principles that apply to just general business. The things on leadership, things on AI, and growing a business are really, really insightful. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Matt, for having me.
All right, you take care now.